Hello guys, yet another video. Hopefully this is the last really big one that you guys have been waiting for. This stuff is really hot off the presses. So I'll be reminding myself of what I've created here as I am telling you about it. So these are the downtime rules. This is a PDF of the Ultimate Campaign book. You guys have access to my copy of this. Most of the rules are pulled out of here, but I have made some changes. I know you're shocked. We'll refer back to this document some as we go using the table of contents here, but I'm going to minimize this. I made a small document called Downtime that I'll share with you just to sort of kick things off. The rules for managing downtime can be found in Chapter 2. I would recommend that you work from the documents I've created, and then I refer you to the rules in the book when you need to go look at them. But it's better to come from my stuff to the book than try to go from the book to my stuff. One thing that confused me for a while, so I'm going to share it with you guys, is there's a difference in the book's terminology between a room and a building and a team and an organization. Rooms are the little pieces that you put together to construct a building. And there's no real rules about what you can and can't put together. You can construct a building made of whatever rooms that you want. Buildings, in that section in the book, are their pre-generated buildings to give you an example of what they think an inn might be like, or what they think a weaponsmith needs or whatever. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to build them that way. Now, there's some things that they put in there, like lavatories and places for people to sleep and that kind of thing, that you might be tempted to skimp on. But I'm probably going to force you to put those in places so that, your employees can be comfortable and that sort of thing. And there are benefits from putting them in there. And then teams are individual groups or specialists that you might go out and hire because you want that kind of person reporting to you or helping you run one of your businesses. And then organizations, sort of like buildings, are their pre-constructed groups of multiple teams that they think make up like a guild or something like that, right? So, if you were opening a temple, you might get, acolytes and priests and guards, and that becomes an organization made up of the individual teams, which are those acolytes and guards and priests and so on like that. So you cobble all that together, you create an organization, you cobble rooms together, and you create a building. So there you go. The book refers to kingdom building in a different chapter. We won't be doing that. We won't be using our class abilities to make money. Again, if you want to go read what I've taken from you, I've got the page number here. I'm not enforcing city size spending limits. Basically, the idea is that a very small place, you couldn't just go in and build the Taj Mahal in the amount of time that you could in Waterdeep or whatever, right? We have some very small settlements here, and the population is kind of in flux, and I'm enforcing some limitations in different ways, but I'm not using their city size limits. You guys will get to leverage your followers in a lot of ways, like the crows that you recruited from the Order of the Gauntlet. You'll get to leverage those guys in a lot of ways that mimic what the leadership feat can do for you. But as you know, I don't use the leadership feat, so any references to that, aren't specifically about that feat. There is no item crafting task during downtime, which is, I know, completely back-asswards from the way we normally think about these things. Normally we think we can't craft while we're out adventuring, and then we take some downtime to do a crap ton of crafting. Since you guys are doing crafting all the time using your session points and those other resources, you actually don't use your downtime days to do crafting. It still is just the crafting posts that I've made or the way we do crafting. So that you don't have a special different mechanism for crafting as part of downtime, because that might make me want to drink poison or something. No paying for retraining or anything else on installment. The book has this idea that you can go into debt to get stuff done. I have no intention of managing you guys' credit rating or your IOUs or any of that. So if you can't pay for it, you can't have it. A lot of this stuff refers to weeks, and in Pathfinder, a week is 7 days, which, isn't that out of the ordinary. But in the Forgotten Realms, we use 10 days, and I have attempted to basically take any dependency on weeks out of the system completely. And I think that it's either a neutral outcome or works in your benefit the way I've done it. So we'll keep an eye on it, but I don't think there's a problem there. Options in the book that we are using, you can spend capital to boost your skill checks. So the example they give in the book I think is great. If you're sitting around in a bar and some guy starts messing with you, you can spend, say, some labor. Say you spend 5 points of labor to get +5 to your intimidation roll on this guy. But anytime you spend capital or earn capital, you have to describe how it happens. And in this case, their example is because you're spending labor, a couple of guys that are loyal to you stand up in the bar and let this guy know that he won't just be fighting you, but he'll be fighting all of them too. So anyway, if you want to boost a skill check using capital, you can do it anytime, any place. You just have to make it make sense. So, if you're making a spellcraft check in the middle of the jungle and you want to burn some magic for it, that's cool. You can convert your team members into managers. So if you want to make Alicilla, the boss of the smithy, or if you want to make Bobby the manager of your tavern, I think those would be good ideas. All you have to do is start paying them. And as soon as you start paying them a wage, which is part of the mechanics of this downtime system, then boom, they're your manager. Having a manager is a good thing because if you leave your business in the hands of the default staff, I'm doing air quotes here, the default staff that kind of comes with the building, then all kinds of crap can go wrong while you're not there. So installing a manager that is loyal to you is a super, super good idea. It also mitigates attrition of your resources to the point that basically it doesn't happen, at least in my homebrew rules. And it makes it a lot less likely that, while you're gone for a month saving the world, that your minions are going to steal your business from you. You will find bonus capital in the forms of goods and magic while you're adventuring. So just like you kind of did when you finished up at Fort Faithful, there was goods and magic loot laying around. And then you can also earn influence and labor from people. So you might rescue a bunch of people and they say, well, we have no way to pay you because we're a bunch of poor slaves that you just rescued from the Yuan-Ti, but we will be happy to, help you with our physical work or whatever if you would accept it. Or in the case that like the C team rescued one of the merchant princes from Port Nine Zaru, that would have earned a bunch of influence that they could then use, towards other things. All right, so this document's very short, actually. It's mostly just links. So I've created this document called Downtime that links behind both of these. And if we go open it up, I think I've got it zoomed in. Yeah, okay, so let's see, what was my first thing to talk about here? So downtime phases, go through each step for each PC, and then we'll keep the stuff that's group owned separately. Basically, we'll treat the group like a separate character that has to go through these phases. The way the phases work, basically every single day we run through these 4 phases. It looks like a lot, but I actually just put a bunch of notes in here to make it easier for me. I think once we get used to it, it'll go super fast. I've simplified a lot of this. I've taken the dice rolling out of it because that was going to drive me crazy, I could already tell. So mostly we're going to just take some default bonuses, and then you'll know exactly how much money you're going to earn from a particular place every single day, and you can plan that way. Well, when I say money, I mean resources. So just quickly, I'll run through it. What you do is you figure out everything you owe somebody, then you pay them. If you can't pay them, then there could be consequences. Then you figure out if there's any attrition of your capital. That only happens if you've been away and you're not using a manager. Again, this is sort of my homebrew. And then does any attrition happen to your business? This is what I was referring to before, that it's possible if you stay gone a really long time, the minions who are running your business may just assume you're dead and start running it themselves. So you'll have to kind of steal it back from them. But you can mitigate this by just keeping in touch with them. Their rules for it are stupid. So I just made some that say basically if you check in with the business every 10 day, then you can really mitigate how all this goes. You'll still, when you come back after being gone for 30 or more days, which will probably be rare for you guys, but if it happens, you'll have to sort of reassert yourself as the boss when you get back, and that will leverage your leadership score, which I'm keeping over here. You see Craze has the highest leadership score right now of 9 because he's charming. San has the lowest because she's not. But there's a lot of factors that go into determining your leadership. Some of this is out of the book, and some of this is my own stuff. But anyway, what kind of leader you are factors into whether your business loses money or gets taken away from you. And then there's some events that can leverage it as well. The next stage is you doing whatever activity you had planned for that day, and we'll talk about those in a second. If you had started an activity the day before, then you would spend today continuing it. That seems to probably make sense. And you can start a new downtime activity if you're not continuing something else. There's also free activities that you can do, like shopping and just role playing and that sort of thing. Doesn't actually cost you any of your precious downtime days. Then the next thing comes that we figure out how much money all of your assets make you. You can abandon some if they're costing you money. You can sell them off if you think you've got a buyer. But again, all of this should go really fast because we're not going to do it with dice rolls. We're going to do it with just some fixed numbers that I have added some big bonuses to. So basically, I've made it like you roll a 20 every single time you do this. Which, I mean, could happen, right? So I didn't think it was all that broken. And then lastly, we roll to see if there was any sort of unusual event. There's a percentage chance, and then I roll in a chart, and this could be a boon. Hey, you have a bunch of customers today, and you make double money. Or it can be a some sort of bad thing happens. And it will only happen, I should put this in here, but it'll only happen to a single player. The event doesn't apply to everybody unless it's a shared business or whatever. All right, so step 2 was you could do an activity. This is a list of all the activities that you can do. I have put a description of it here, a little code to represent sort of an abbreviation of it, and you'll see why I did that in just a minute. There's a list here that shows you how many of your days it takes to do this. Most of things are 1 day, but some of them aren't. You see that I locked in this little bar at the top so you know what you're looking at as you scroll through it. This is just a quick blurb of the benefit, like why you would want to do this. These are limitations. Some are out of the book. Some are things that I created myself. This is a place you can go to refer in the book to, read more about how this works, or at least how they think it should work. And then the mechanics are sort of a combination of how the book says it should work, plus my own, tweaks to how I think this should operate. So we'll use these mechanics, and again, we'll get good at it pretty quickly. One that you'll be doing a lot is, I'm not going to read each one of these to you, but you'll be going out and earning capital using your skills. So you spend a day and basically you go out and say, I want to earn money, or I want to earn some capital. Let's say you're low on magic capital and you really want to get some. The book, finally go back to the book, go to downtime activities, go to earn capital, and actually it goes back up to page 77 to see this. This is one of the worst edited books I have ever seen in my life. It is just garbage the way they have this information arranged. All right, so you see this area here called skilled work. If you scroll on down, you'll find the different skills that you can use to gather different kinds of goods. So let's say, like I said, you wanted to earn some magic today. You can use any of the skills listed here. Let's use my character Donner as an example. He's a +8 to heal. So he's going to go out to earn some magic capital today with a +8 to heal. So we look at the little chart here. If earning capital, add your skill mod +20. So that's going to take him to 28. Divide by 10. That turns into 2.8. And then round up, that's how much capital he got. So 2.8 becomes 3 magic that I earned today. I went out and used my healing skill. And again, it's more fun if you tell a little story. So I'll say I went and volunteered, at the Triad Temple, or I went to offer my services up to the local guard who I feel like haven't been getting checked for lice often enough. So I'll go spend the day picking ticks off of the city guard, and I earn 3 magic for using my magical skills to do that. All right, so that's how that particular thing works, but that's just one example of the things you could do with your downtime. Quickly, I'll at least describe the big ones. You can add spells to your spell book. You can build a building. We already talked about earning capital. You can do it skilled or unskilled. I basically wrote here, never do this. Like, I don't know why you would ever do this, but I left it in here. You can just take the day to earn experience. You can go out and gather information. You can heal yourself and others. I've got a note here that says, if the downtime is going to be long enough, you probably don't want to use this to heal yourself if you're going to heal naturally anyway. But if for some reason your downtime is going to be very short, or at least not long enough for you to walk off whatever's wrong with you naturally, then you might want to take advantage of the benefits offered by downtime healing. Basically, you can treat every day like 24 hours of bed rest, and you don't have any of the risks of fatigue. You don't need an assistant, that kind of stuff. You can read it yourself, but I have completely replaced their rules with my rules, which are actually useful, and theirs are actually not. You can promote a business. This doesn't have to be your business, but basically you go use your popularity or your skills to draw attention to a particular business. And for 1d6 days, this is probably the only place in here that there's a variable, but it's here intentionally. For 1d6 days, your personality will jazz up the business for that particular, that bakery or that smithy or whatever. So you can do it for your own business, but you'll see further down that there's another way to make more money at your own business as well. You can just straight up purchase capital. So this costs twice as much as earning it. And I didn't mention that. If you're not familiar with this system, remember I used the example of Donner going out and earning 3 magic? Well, this is part of the way this system works, he still has a financial investment in that. So the option I was just showing you, if you just wanted to say, hey, I spend the day just buying capital, you can pay 100 gold and get a magic. If you go out and use your skills, so like Donner did, he went out and earned 3 magic. He still has to pay 150 gold for that. So he'll trade 150 of his gold for the 3 magic that he brought in today. That represents the investment he had to make in supplies or whatever to do whatever he was doing. But that's half the cost of him just saying, hey, I go buy it, which would cost him 300 gold. So you're trading a day to get half price on your capital, basically. Again, though, as you get into the system, you're going to see that the way to get capital is by having buildings, not necessarily by doing it yourself, although, if you spend 20 days of downtime doing it yourself and you can afford it, you can come away with, 60 magic or whatever. All right, moving on. Purchasing capital is what we just talked about. Oh, and I was saying that took a day, but it takes no time. If you buy it, it doesn't take any time. Basically, you roll in, like a rich guy and just start gathering stuff, throwing money around to get capital. So anytime you just want some capital, this is a free action. If you get a permanent injury, I promised you guys ages ago that I would give you the ability to do this. So if you've cheated death and lost a con point or developed a limp or whatever, you can spend time during downtime to get that con point back or whatever. So, you might go a while with that injury, but you can ultimately get it back. You can also use this to basically generate the equivalent of a restoration spell without actually having to spend the gold. So if you've got negative levels or if you've got permanent drain to some of your stats and nobody in your group is able or willing to cast restoration on you, then you can, it'll take some time, like 10 days to get the 1,000 gold piece version. But if you spend a 10-day, then it's like somebody cast a restoration spell on you. You can recruit for an organization. This is the same as building a building, except it's building a team. Okay, so if you want to go out and gather up some people to work for you, then you can spend time doing that. And the book tells you exactly how long that will take. So, let me get to the right spot here. Teams. All right, so let's say I want to go out and get myself some archers. I'll end up with 5 archers, and I'll spend 4 days doing it. And I'll have to come up with 4 goods, 3 influence, and 7 labor to get them on board. And then going forward, every day they'll earn me gold, influence, or labor with a +6 to my roll. Even though we don't roll, it would be a 26. Because I just add 20. So again, just like a building, except it's a group of people. The difference here is that if you're recruiting people, I assume that however many days it takes, you are personally doing it. Whereas when you start a construction project, I just charge you 1 day to kick the project off, and then you leave your labor guys in charge of handling it. There's no benefit to you sticking around there. You can replace an animal companion. This is straight out of the book. If Lily doesn't like Fifi, you can slit her throat, eat her for dinner, and get a different kind of animal. Same thing with your familiar. If your familiar gets blowed up in a troll crusher explosion, there's my email popping up. Gets blowed up in a troll crusher explosion, then you can get yourself a new familiar. The rules say that your familiar has to be gone for a week. I guess you have to cry about it for a week before you can get a new one. Again, that's a Pathfinder week. I'd probably just let it be 7 days. You can research an item that you wish you could craft, and I basically got the rules written down in here. You're going to want to get it approved by me before you spend this time. But if you want to insert, say, a new non-magic item into the game and I have approved it ahead of time, then that'll take a day or 3 days for magic items. So basically, if you're making me consider new stuff that you want to add to the game, then I'm going to get you to spend some of your precious downtime to get it into the game. You can research a spell. You can also go research facts and lore. This is to learn history. If you've got a book repository, you can do it yourself. If you have to go to the public library, then you have to pay for access. And materials and stuff. Same thing when you're researching a spell. If you've got a magical repository, you can do it yourself. If you've got to go borrow somebody's wizard tower, then you're going to have to get through the door by using some influence. You can retrain. The retraining rules in the book are, I think, pretty awesome. So I don't really have any I have no notes. You just go down here to retraining and read about how to do it, figure out what you want to change and change it. I really like that there's a mechanism for this. Scheme. Oh, sorry, I skipped one. Run a business. This is the thing that you can do to make your own business do better. So you can spend 1 day and basically get a +10 bonus to your business's roll, which will earn you 1 additional resource that you were going to get. You can scheme for an upcoming adventure. This is kind of a weird one, but you can read about it. Basically, if you know you're going to have to do a specific task, like we've got to sneak in and get Adeline out of jail, you can plan ahead to get a bonus to that stealth check that you know you're going to have to make when you go inside. Which, I mean, it's kind of neat. You just have to read the mechanics of it, but I think it's pretty neat. You can sell an item. This goes with my whole thing on the crafting system. I started thinking about, if you craft something, you put your heart and soul into it, and then you find loot that, is better. And now you're like, wow, I spent, 14 session points building this armor, and now I don't need it anymore. I'm going to give you the option to go out and sell that for full price. So you get a bunch of money in one big lump. But you can only do this once per 10 day. If you try to sell things more often than that, then you basically are saying you want to be a merchant and you retire from the adventuring life. But this gives you a way to get the value out of something you made, or something you found for that matter, that you're like, wow, this is worth a fortune, and we're going to sell it for 40%. No, I'm going to devote some of my time to going out and actually selling this to somebody who wants it. I'll use my charm, my personality, sell it to an individual buyer, and I'll get full price for it. Taking over an existing building is just a really fast way to get a building. Rather than building it, you can go up and say, hi, Mrs. Silver, I love the Seven Silvers Tavern. I would like to buy it from you. And if she's willing to sell it, then boom, you've got an instant tavern. All that's going to require role play and negotiation and all that kind of stuff. The book basically says you can pay whatever it costs to build it, which I think is stupid. The price will either be higher because they're trying to make money, or it'll be cheaper because there's some outside force that makes them want to sell. And if you're unscrupulous, then you could go, scare them off or slander them or whatever. If you're that kind of guy. You can train on your feet, train a skill rank. These are homebrew from me, but you can do this. I sort of leveraged the way the retraining rules to come up with the way it does this. But in 5 days, you can get a feat. You can only do that once per downtime, and for now, you can only ever do that 5 times. Skills take 3 days, and you can only do 1 a week, but that'll get you a rank into a skill. And then you can train an animal. That's straight out of the book. If you haven't maxed out the tricks on one of your pets, then you just use the handle animal rules. It tells you how long things take, and you can train up your animal. All right, so that was a lot of talking, but that was the stuff you care about. I think now might be the time for me to hop over here and show you. I created this document called the Downtime Tracker. It's linked right here. This document you guys have complete edit control over. All right, so I don't have anything I care about in here. I've backed up everything. You can come out here and lay out what you're going to do. I'm giving you guys 30 days of downtime for this first go round of downtime. And so all you've got to do is say what you want to do on each day. So Adeline, for instance, is going to spend day 1 earning experience. So she just needs to put XP in there, and so on. All right, so just fill in the blanks with what you want to do each day, and that will expedite us getting through this. I'll fill in the events if they occur and note who they happen to. It's unlikely that there'll be an event, more than once a 10-day or maybe twice a 10-day. That's just the way the dice will work out. But anyway, so if you want to sell an item on day 2, then you just come out here and say sell. And then again, you're going to want to refer back to the actual rules, because if you look at sell an item, it's going to take you 1 day per 2,000 gold in the sale price. So if the thing you're selling is worth 7,200 gold, then that's going to take you 4 days, right? Because rounds up to 8,000 divided by 2 is 4 days. So in your tracker, you're going to say not sell 1 day, but sell over the course of 4 consecutive days. All right, go out here and fill in your 30 days, and then we'll deal with it as we go through things. Again, I understand that you may not know how some of this works. If you get into it and you can't make sense of it from my notes here, which I hope you can, and you eventually will be able to, but if right off the bat all this is way too confusing, I get it. If you say, hey, I want to spend a day scheming, and then we get into it and you go, oh, wait a second, this is not what I thought it was, then we'll change it. I mean, I get that the first time we go through this is going to be clunky. So, I'm not going to be unforgiving about your decisions this first time we do this stuff. And part of the reason I'm giving you 30 days is so you have a chance to kind of see it all if you want to. Let's see, what else have we got on the document here? I think we've pretty much been through my little document. So I've got a tab here for helping us figure out what phases to do. I've got a tab for telling you what all the activities are. I've got a tab for keeping up with your leadership scores. And then I've just made backups of the sheets that I've handed over to you. Let me show you the other thing that I've got here. If you come up here and you say that you want to build your own building, all right, so you put BLD in, then you've got to figure out what it's going to take to build that building. And I've made a tab for each of you here to do that. So we'll go to Adelines, and all you do is come in here and fill this guy out. I'm going to show you an example of that. Again, I know this video is getting long, but this is one of those things that just needs to be done. So you'll fill in your construction planner, and it will help you figure out how many resources you're going to need for the building, for your dream building. All right, and again, I've got one for each of you. I made them different colors in hopes that you could figure out at a glance if you were on your sheet or not. So, Landis don't type on Hugh's sheet, and Hugh don't type on Ray's sheet, and so on like that. So I thought the colors might help you out a little bit. All right, so I am going to get away from that and go here. I made myself a copy of this to do construction for your group tasks. And I don't mind handing this over to you, but I kind of wanted just sort of to test this out. So what I did was created a smithy for Alicilla with the minimum rooms that I thought she could get by with. I got her a bedroom, I got her a forge, I got her a lavatory, I got her some storage, and I got her a storefront. All right, and if you go to this document and you go to rooms, let's find one of those rooms that I picked for her. Here's a bedroom. All right, a bedroom can earn you gold or influence +3, and that's what happens during your earnings, is having a bedroom, earns you some sort of income. I don't really want to question how you're earning money in your bedroom, but it cost 8 goods, 7 labor to build it. Ignore the gold. That's if you were going to buy one from somebody. And it takes 20 days. All right. And then if you actually want to sit down and draw out what your places look like, you'll get experience. This takes up 4 to 8 squares. All right. So, it was gold or influence +3, 8 goods, 7 labor, 20 days. So you'll see what I did here is I said 8 goods, 7 labor, 20 days. That it earns me gold or influence +3. This is not an upgrade to an existing room, and when that happens, I'll explain to you why I'm keeping up with it. Basically, if you're upgrading a storage room to, I don't know, I forget what storage rooms upgrade to, but to something cooler, then we log the new room and get rid of the old room. And you'll notice as you go through these rooms that you can build that, like for instance, a bunk room, you can start with upgrades to lodging. Lodging gives better bonuses, but it's also more expensive. So you could start by building a bunk room and then later upgrade to lodging. So that's what I'm referring to when I ask if it's an upgrade. So anyway, I filled in all the blanks for what it would take to build what I think is the most basic smithy for Alicilla. And it came out to 28 goods, 2 influence, 22 labor, a total of 64 man days, I guess, working. But this value really has very little value because all of this is going on simultaneously, right? The labor to build the bedroom is happening at the same time that the labor to build the forge is. So instead, I just put this column out here to tell you when it was finished. So you'll have a lavatory pretty quickly, which I guess is great. You have kind of a porta potty on site. And then your storage room will pop up. Then your storefront will be there. But getting the bedroom and the forge going Okay, I am back. Hopefully this is recording again. Yep, it looks like it is. Sorry, my phone rang. It was a work call. So, got to do that kind of stuff. I don't intend to do this video again, so we're just going to keep going. Anyway, I think I was talking to you about the total number of resources that had been spent and when the construction end date was. So by the 20th, you'd actually have a forge and a bedroom up and going, and this building would really be finished. However, the way the rules go, I'm not sure this makes a lot of sense, but technically by the rules, as soon as your storefront, for instance, is up, you could start earning capital. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but maybe people are coming in and putting in orders in advance of the forge being ready or something. So I'll probably still just let it happen. Like the second that storage goes up, you can start getting a +2 to just earning gold every day. I guess maybe you're saving money by not having to store things, somewhere else or whatever. So whatever, we can justify it, but I don't mind you going ahead and doing your earnings. So as we're going through your activities, so like if you can keep this straight, so like your storage is going to be finished on Eliant 8. So on Eliant 8, when we're going through downtime activities, you would then be able to reap the earnings from that particular structure. Again, it's some stuff, but once you've got your buildings established, it won't be quite so cumbersome. So that's the layout of how this sheet works. I got to thinking about your Crossroads Tavern and what's the minimum we could do with it, and I came up with we need a bar, a common room, a lavatory, an office, and storage. So again, all you're going to do when you're building your own places is pop open the document. Let's go see what a bar does for us. Pop open the document, find a bar. It's gold or influence +10. So I'm going to come over here and say gold or influence +10 is what I'll be earning once the date of construction is complete here. It's going to take me 6 goods, 1 influence, 5 labor. So 6 goods, 1 influence, 5 labor. And how many days is it going to take to get a bar up and running? It takes 16 days. And then you really want to read what the benefit of these places are. In addition to the earnings, very often they do something else for you. So in this case, you get a +1 on diplomacy checks made to gather information if you hang out in your bar. So another good reason, to go visit your establishments. So what did I say? 16 days. So we'll come plug 16 days here. And all you have to do is type the 16. I've got it set to plug in the word days for you. So if we were to start this on Eliant 1, then it would complete on Eliant 16. And so on. Fill it all in, and then we'll figure out if we've got enough resources to make this happen. And this is noted on your, boy, I'm getting confused with my own sheets here. On your downtime activities, you can create your building room by room over time. For instance, your bar doesn't have to have a kitchen from the start or whatever. Or I guess I could have said a common room from the start or whatever. So the point there is, let me go back to my own sheet. I'm getting myself confused here. The point here is if you've got the resources to build the bar, but you don't have the resources to build the common room yet, you can go ahead and build the bar and start, again, reaping earnings from it. Maybe it's basically like a lemonade stand that you've set up in the middle of the street until you get a common room. But again, I'm not going to think too hard about that kind of stuff. So, you can call something a building without the walls actually touching. Like when you guys were talking about potentially having, the tavern and the smithy next to each other, as far as I'm concerned, that can be one building if you want it to be, and they're just kind of connected by a breezeway or something, or you can set them up as 2 separate buildings. There's no real benefit to having separate or combined buildings, other than, a single manager can oversee a single area, a single building. I might say if you combine a bar and a smithy that you really need a manager for each side of the house. But, again, we'll work out how you do that when the time comes. I think I have been through all my sheets. I think I've talked about everything. I know this was all over the place, but hopefully it made some sort of sense, and I'll get this posted and we can talk about it later. Thanks.